So to prove the fool is wrong and he's lying, these are not my words. These are actually the words of Ibn Salah, and whoever studies hadith knows who the scholar Ibn Salah is. In his book Ulum al-Hadith for Ibn Salah, he wrote a huge book about hadith sciences. And the thing is, he mentions that when Al-Bukhari says, everything that I put in my Jami' al-Musnad al-Sahih, which means the hadith al-Musnada, he named it Musnad, al-Musnada meaning having isnad, is all Sahih. But he never said that what he placed with his book as-Sahih, which is of the hadith that are MUALLAQAT, which have no chain or these types of things, he never said that these parts are Sahih of his book. Neither did Muslim. And I will prove it from the book of Ibn Salah. Whoever wants to know the hadith sciences, he has to go back to the books of Ibn Salah. I will show you it clearly. So as you can see, this is the book. If you go to page 24 of Ibn Salah's book, he clearly says here, as you can see, I'm going to try to zoom in. So if we start from here, he says السادسة, the sixth, ما أسنده البخاري ومسلم رحمهم الله في كتابيهما بالإسناد المتصل فذلك الذي حكم بصحته بلا إشكال. Clearly says, Ibn Salah says, whatever Bukhari and Muslim asnad, he mentioned the isnad, placed the isnad in their books with a isnad muttasil, with a connected isnad, فَذَلِكَ الَّذِي حَكَمَا بِصَحَّةِ بِلَا إِشْكَالٍ. This is what Al-Bukhari and Muslim have agreed that it is sahih. What they placed of hadiths that are musnad, that have a isnad transmission, and they mentioned his isnad, this is what Bukhari and Muslim say is sahih. وأما المعلق, but as for the hadith that is معلق, وهو الذي حذف من مبتدأ إسناده واحدا أو أكثر, and it is the hadith in which in the first of isnad, one or two have been taken away, have been removed from the isnad. وأغلب ما وقع ذلك في كتاب البخاري, and this happens mostly in al-Bukhari's book. وهو في كتاب مسلم قليلا, and in Sahih Muslim it is a few hadiths that are like that. جدا ففي بعضه نظر, so in some of them there is نظر, you have to look upon it, you have to study it, you can't say it is صحيح. وينبغي أن نقول, and we have to say, ما كان في ذلك ونحوه بلفظ فيه جزم, if there is a hadith in Bukhari Muslim in which there is a lafz that is جزم, وحكم به على من علقه عنده فقد حكم بصحته عنه. And whoever, whatever he says that is jazm in the lafz of Bukhari, if it's jazm, if the hadith is jazm, and it's mu'allaq in this part, then there is sihha on it. مثاله قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم, and he gives an example. But he says, وَأَمَّا مَا لَمْ يَكُنْ فِي لَفْظِهِ جَزْم, in this part right here. And as for the one, next page, and as for the one that doesn't have the lafz of Bukhari and Muslim that is jazm, وحكم, and he mentions the hadith, كذا وكذا, for example, روي عن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم, it is narrated from the Prophet Muhammad صلى الله عليه وسلم, this and that, or it is narrated from so and so, or في الباب عن النبي, or chapter of the Prophet Muhammad صلى الله عليه وسلم, so and so, فهذا ما أشبه من ألفاظ ليس في شيء منه حكم منه بصحة ذلك عمن ذكره عنه. And this is proof that these types of hadith of mu'allaq in Bukhari or Muslim, there is no صحة, it is not sahih. لأن مثل هذه العبارات تستعمل في الحديث ضعيف في الحديث الضعيف أيضا, because these labels in the hadith of Sahih Bukhari Muslim, these types of labels are also used in the weak hadiths. If we go to page 26, he says, Ibn Salah says, ثم إن ما يتعاقد من ذلك عن شرط الصحيح قليل يوجد فيه كتاب البخاري في مواضع من تراجم الأبواب دون مقاصد الكتاب وموضعه الذي يشعر به اسمه الذي سماه به. In Bukhari, the shurut, what is the conditions of Bukhari of what is the Sahih Hadith or not. Al-Bukhari named this book Al-Jami' Al-Musnad Al-Sahih Al-Mukhtasar min Umur Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam wa sunanihi wa ayyamih. He named it Al-Jami' Al-Sahih. This is his book. وإلى الخصوص الذي بيناه يرجع مطلق قوله ما أدخلت في كتاب الجامع إلا ما صح. And this is the meaning of what Al-Bukhari says, whatever I place in my Sahih book is Sahih. وكذلك مطلق قول الحافظ أبي نصر الوالي الشجزي أجمع أهل العلم الفقهاء وغيرهم على أن رجلا لو حلف بالطلاق أن جميع ما في كتاب البخاري مما روي عن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قد صح عنه عند رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم قاله لا شك فيه أنه لا يحنث والمرأة بحالها في حبالتها. So clearly he says that all the scholars are in consensus that if a person was to swear by Allah that whatever is in Sahih al-Bukhari and Muslim are Sahih, in that he swears by that to divorce his wife, then his divorce is true, is accepted, and his half, is swearing, is correct. وكذا ما ذكره etc etc. So Al-Bukhari says here فإنما المراد بكل ذلك فإنما المراد. So he says here فإنما المراد بكل ذلك مقاصد الكتاب وموضوعه ومتون الأبواب دون التراجم ونحوها. So what is meant by that is the books that are that have the mutun, the transmission, and without the the tarajum, the sayings, the regular sayings, or some of that. لأن في بعضها ما ليس من ذلك قطعا, because some of these hadiths, some of these wordings in this hadith is not part of the hadiths of Bukhari in general, but he placed it there, but it's not a part of the hadiths of the isnad in general. مثل قول البخاري, for example, the Bukhari saying باب ما يذكر في الفخذ. The chapters that Al-Bukhari put in his Sahih books, these chapter headings, they are not part of the hadith of Al-Bukhari, okay, and they don't have to be Sahih. ويروى عن ابن عباس وجرهد ومحمد بن جحش عن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم الفخذ عورة, that narrated Ibn Abbas through the narrated of the Prophet Muhammad صلى الله عليه وسلم, the Prophet says al-fakh, meaning the knee, is or the thigh of a person is part of the private part, is awra, which needs to be covered. These parts, this is not a sahih part. وقول في أول باب من أبواب الحديث الغسل, وقال بهز بن حكيم عن أبيه عن جده عن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم الله أحق أن يستحي منه, فهذا قطعا ليس من شرطه. And also when Bukhari says that Bahz bin Hakim says, narrates from his father, narrates from his grandfather, narrates from the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam says Allah is more rightful for a person to be shy from. فهذا قطعا ليس من شرطه. But, and this is in no doubt is not part of the condition. This Bukhari mentioned in his book, but this is in no doubt that is part of Al-Bukhari's condition of a hadith being sahih. So he mentioned this weak part, but it doesn't mean that it's sahih.
Absolutely not. So Muslims don't believe Jesus died on the cross, don't believe he rose from the dead, don't believe he claimed to be divine. So we have a conflict here, right? And so as a Christian, you're commanded to share the gospel, and Muslims don't believe that, and so there's going to be disagreement there. So when you tell a Muslim, hey, my Muslim friend, I've got my Bible here, my Bible says Jesus claimed to be divine, he died on the cross for sins, he rose from the dead, like clockwork, what's the response going to be?
Your book is corrupted, my friend.
Our book has been corrupted. The Bible has been corrupted. And it makes sense why a Muslim would say that. The Bible and the Quran disagree. They agree on certain things, don't get me wrong, and it's very important to point out when Christians and Muslims do agree on things. Christians and Muslims agree that Jesus was born of a virgin. We agree that Jesus performed miracles. We agree that Jesus is the Messiah. We agree that God exists, that God created the world. We agree on all kinds of things, so it's not like we disagree on everything. But when we get down to the core of the gospel, the core of the message that Christians want to share with others, we find Islam teaches the exact opposite on these things. And so if you're a Muslim, you believe that the gospel was originally inspired, an inspired message. You have to believe that, because this isn't, if I talk to an atheist or something like that and I tell them about Jesus, the atheist can say, I don't care about Jesus, I don't believe in him. But Muslims aren't allowed to say that. So Muslims have certain things that their religion requires them to believe, and one of the things they have to believe in, they have to believe Jesus was a messenger of God. So, Sam.
Yes, sir.
Muslims will say the gospel's been corrupted, right? You know this, we've heard this, thousands of times.
Yeah.
Now, is that the impression you would get from the Quran? Would a Muslim ever get this impression from the Quran? If a Muslim opens up his Quran, reads it from beginning to end, is he going to walk away from that thinking, wow, the book that those Christians have, that is one messed up, weird book?
I just wanted to make one comment. When you said that, what would the Muslims say about our Gospels? You said, they said it was corrupt, huh? You said it with such passion and conviction, you convinced me. No. As a side note, if someone were to read the Quran and try to be as objective in the reading of the Quran, which is hard because every one of us approach a text with presuppositions. But if someone were just to allow the Quran to speak within its own context, the last thing that they would conclude is that the author of the Quran or the authors of the Quran assumed that the biblical revelation was tampered with, because you find a plethora of passages confirming the veracity, the authenticity, and the authority of the scriptures in the possession of the Jews and Christians.
Now, the New Testament clearly states that it is preferable for men to castrate themselves, become eunuchs, Matthew 19:12. It also states that true Christians can drink poison, Mark chapter 16, and not be harmed. Finally, it states that women must pray with their heads covered, 1 Corinthians chapter 11, and that a woman speaking in church is shameful, 1 Corinthians chapter 14. My question is, why don't the vast majority of Christians follow these rules? And if they do, I would like, Mr. Wood, I have a vial of whiteout, liquid paper, highly toxic. I would like Mr. Wood to swig this bottle of whiteout. If he does not do it, then he does not agree that this is the Word of God, because he's a Christian, and Jesus says, according to the Gospel of Mark chapter 16, that he can drink poison and survive. If he does not do it, then he is admitting this is not the Word of God. If he does do it and he survives, I am willing to become a Christian tonight.
Did you say a bottle of whiteout? I might do that for you. I wrote down poison and women in churches. There was something else.
Men have to become eunuchs. It's preferable for men to become eunuchs. Christians can eat poison. A woman must pray with her head covered, according to 1 Corinthians 11. A woman speaking in church is shameful, according to 1 Corinthians 14.
As far as the mark, that comes from the end of Mark, which practically every scholar, every Bible scholar in the world says was not authentic, that this was a later addition. And so that's not in the early source material. As far as our earliest records don't have that part about the poison.